I was asked to talk a little bit about the relationship between yoga and health and knowledge, of course, and the quality of that knowledge. And um, maybe first starting on this relationship between yoga and health. To many people in the world, this is still not very obvious, or people only look at it in a more physical sense, doing physical exercises to bring some relaxation and relief to the body. But as Guruji also pointed out before in relationship to our immunity system and the coronavirus, this relationship between yoga and health is quite absolute. In a way, how can you be happy without being healthy? Yes, this is one thing. But on the other hand, also, how can you be healthy without being happy? This is the other part of it, which is not so easily understood, but is still very much dominant. I mean, if you go into the waiting room of a doctor, very often you will see there some sign saying, laughter is the best medicine, right? So even among medical professions, people understand that there is some relationship between our happiness and our health. But of course, for many people, this phrase will appear as difficult to attain, no? Especially if you have a health issue, then to laugh is not so easy, no? But this is precisely what yoga is teaching us. If we look into the ancient description of the path of yoga, with the 7 steps, 7 bhumikas as they are called there, then we see in the first step where the whole game of yoga starts, a desire coming to escape from the outside world and go into the inside world, because we get kind of tired that our happiness always seems to depend on the outside world. And so since we do not have much control over the outside world, our happiness and our unhappiness, they tend to kind of fluctuate like the seasons. And so at some point we get fed up with that and we ask the very revolutionary question, can I not be happy independent of what happens? Can I not be happy independent of what other people are doing? Can I not be happy just from the inside? And this is of course there where in yoga, if we practice, we more and more connect to some part of us, some central part of us, where happiness is actually a base fact, you know? And so the more that we learn to connect there, the more easy it is to live up to the objective of yoga and be happy whatever happens. And so then, yeah, that also will then affect our health. And I'd like to quote also a very famous phrase by Professor Kandachi Perth, who was the Nobel Prize winner of chemistry some 2 decades ago. She is actually the inventor of Prozac, or she did the research that led to the invention of Prozac. And she says very clearly, someday mankind will come to understand and accept that all disease is at least in part psychosomatic, meaning is at least in part affected by our mental health, by our happiness. So that is a very essential understanding, but it also means that to teach yoga, to practice yoga, goes quite a bit beyond doing some physical exercise, which could be learned and taught quite easily if it were only a physical thing. Like maybe you can learn how to dance, or you can learn some other physical exercises. It should be relatively easy, but in the game of yoga, it is actually a very mysterious subject, because health and happiness are in a way still very mysterious. Still in many cases, even modern medical science has no idea why certain diseases are happening. There are many, many of the typical diseases of modern society that have no clear origin in the understanding, and where somehow or other it is pointed towards the autoimmune system, towards auto-inflammation, towards a lot of things which seem then clearly to be also affected by the happiness of the people. But so we are talking here about a quite difficult subject for which then correct understanding is a necessity. When we analyze why people turn to yoga, why people start their first yoga class, then we easily can see that most of them, over 90% of them, are doing this because they are facing some kind of problem, whether it be physical or mental or both. So if as yoga teachers, we have to be successful in what we are doing, we really need to be able to help these people. Whatever other marketing we are doing on social media and so on, if our clients are not going to be satisfied, it is not going to be very efficient. It is only when people step out and, for example, on social media, start talking about the benefits that they themselves have experienced from their yogic practice, that they will be able to motivate other people to join. And in that way, any local small yoga group can grow if the teaching is based on correct knowledge, and we should not underestimate the complexity of that knowledge. Sometimes it is oversimplified by pointing to simple things like being able to be quiet inside and um, all these things, that we then find in yoga philosophy. But to really come from a state of disharmony in which many people are, towards a state of relative harmony where we feel good and can remain healthy, this is not an easy task. And so the knowledge that we need to have as yoga teacher is vast, because there are so many special cases. Anyway, you can say that every student is a special case and every problem is special and requires also a quite specialized knowledge. The most important knowledge, of course, that we can gain in studying yoga is through the practice itself, where we become students of ourselves and where we can see how, for example, some breathing technique or some particular yoga posture can produce a certain effect inside of us. This knowledge is actually the most important, because if our knowledge is only book knowledge, then it will never be real. It will only be something that we parrot. So we need to experience this knowledge in ourselves, and only then we can truly pass it on and apply it to that specific person who is sitting in front of us. But on the other hand, this understanding about self-study and the importance of self-study should also not lead to the idea that we don't need any books. That is also a wrong thinking, which is quite often found in yoga circles. Oh, I don't need any books, I don't need any teacher, I will find out everything by myself. While this is not a basically bad attitude, it is still a little bit, I would say, stupid, because why would you not help yourself by learning from those who have gone before you? And in that, the Vedic tradition offers thousands and thousands of years of literature, of experiences being described, of special cases being studied and explained and solutions being offered. So there, why invent the wheel yourself? Yes. So much knowledge is already there. So much knowledge is readily available. So we have to have this access to it. And then it is rightly said in the beginning also of this event that while today's internet offers a vast amount of information, there is not so much knowledge readily available, and it is very hard for the student and for new yoga teachers to dare find those works, those books that are honestly bringing real knowledge and that are not more, I would say, commercially inspired or based upon very limited understanding. And the democracy of the internet means that everybody can put out any information that they want, which is very nice in a way. But it also means that every stupid person can put out a lot of information out there and make it appear as if it is very well founded. So that problem certainly is faced by every student around the world, and definitely also in this quite mysterious area of knowledge about yoga and health. It is very easy to become confused. So I believe that the idea to offer yoga teachers in Bangladesh a library online with good literature that has been pre-selected by a number of specialists in their own fields, I think that is very, very valuable. And I hope that with this, yoga teachers in Bangladesh may be successful in a way bringing back this old knowledge to modern society, making people experiencing it, making people get the benefits of it, so that in that way, every one of these students at some point also becomes a person, maybe not a real teacher, but a person who is sharing his understanding and sharing the experience and making the interest and the practice of yoga, and of course also naturopathy. I haven't really been talking about that, to make it grow and to make it part of mainstream culture, which today it is not. No? It is not in the West, it is not in the East. So we have lots of work there to do, but this work can only be done properly if it is based on true knowledge, on good books. And as I said, the books themselves are somewhat also limited in what they can teach you, but still they can make the path so much easier. And I remember myself in the 80s and 90s when I was traveling about every year to India, that always I had to pay overweight charges on the airplane going home because of the so many books that I bought in India, which I could not find in Belgium, which I could not find in Europe. So all that has changed now, but still we need to make sure that the correct knowledge, and this is in part the old knowledge, and this may be also some new knowledge, let's say on a subject like burnout, which is very popular these days and a very real problem that many, many people are facing, and for which many, many people are seeking some kind of clarity and some kind of help and some kind of relaxation in the practice of yoga, in the use of natural medicines, and so on. And so that also on this subject, we can find those books, that literature, which really is going to help everybody to move forward. And of course, it is important from the very beginning to understand that this is not really an easy task. Because when we go into the different yoga philosophies, the different yoga traditions, the different yoga branches, and just the same when we go into the many, many different ways in which naturopathy, reflexology, and so many other natural therapies can be helpful to people, then it is very easy to get into a kind of conflict about, what is the best knowledge, what is the best technique, and so on. And I like to just say something from my own practice there. I am a teacher, but I am also very much a healer. And I can only say that to me, all yogic practices and all natural remedies or therapies are largely complementary in trying to bring health and happiness to people. So, in that way, when we make a selection of good books, we should be open minded. The fact that a number of people with good knowledge select a particular book for this library, for me, it should be enough. Let's say we like to add some books on the subject of chakras to this library. We'd have the choice among many hundreds of books, actually, and many of these books may be having different views, different opinions, different approaches to that subject. So the main task there would be to filter out those works that are really somewhat unfounded, that are not really showing a broad enough view of the subject. But apart from that, the differences of approach, which then may also lead to differences of opinion, they should be allowed. You know? So that there's no need to discuss whether this book or that book is the best choice when we want to know about chakras. The main thing we have to verify is if a number of selected individuals may find this book or that book interesting enough to put in the library. That should be how we approach it. There is really, and this is quite natural, a lot of, let's say, marketing going on by different teachers, by different authors, by different institutions and organizations to promote their path, to promote their practice, to promote their remedies as being the number one, as being the best. So we should be aware of that, but knowing there that all these have something worthwhile to say. So when we are looking, which is still in the process, I believe, how to select books for this library, we should understand this quite properly, that these books will be complementary to each other and giving each of the readers different views, different approaches, which then these readers can themselves try out and from their own experience then select that which seems to work for them and that which then they can also pass on to their students. So it is not a matter of opinion how to select which book. It is mostly a matter of, I would say, notoriety of the author, of the organization who produces that body of knowledge, so that we can be certain that it is well founded. And well founded usually means based on a practice, based on a tradition, based on results. One of the beautiful things I believe about the old traditions is that they have survived until today. And that means that they have something to offer. if I, as an author or yoga teacher, start preaching something which does not work, then very clearly this knowledge will not last because it doesn't work. So that is the great thing about these many traditions. So all of these traditions, all of these authors, they have something to offer. This is not a matter of opinion. It is a matter of, okay, what are they doing with it? What are they able to do with it? How much can it really help? And if enough people say, okay, this book for me really helped me, really brought me some techniques, some therapies, whatever, that I could use with success, then this should be enough. That other people may have other views and other opinions, this is a different thing, you know. This is a little bit to do also with the particular nature of our mind to think in black and white, in right and wrong. But truly, when we study the subject of health and happiness, we will find that there is no right and wrong, there is no black and white, there is just that which works for the person which sits in front of you. And in that way, it is very much a matter of applying complementary techniques. Like my healing practice is mostly based on tantric practices from Nepal, combined also with then more general yogic practices, I would say. But I very often cooperate with other healers, with osteopaths, with therapists, psychologists, and many other people who in their own field really have something to offer. And when a medical problem, let's say, is chronic, it exists for some time, then we will find that it will manifest on so many different levels of the physical body, of the joints and the organs, the nerves, the blood, so many things, metabolism. But also then on the mental level, when we start working with people, we will understand that to make them more relaxed, to make them more happy, to make them more able to be happy independent of what happens, has many levels. And so we will need to combine the expertise of many specialists in order to really bring a person forward. So that also should be the idea behind this library, I believe, that um, there's no need to fight. The only thing needed is to find out good books, which are found worthy by some people whom themselves also have a certain background, a certain experience, and a certain knowledge. So that is all. And I think if this can be very clear from the start, then this library will be very interesting for people to use and will really successfully promote yoga and naturopathy in Bangladesh. Oh, I think that is a little bit an insight here from Belgium. I don't really have much to do in a practical way with the setup of this library, but I think it's very important because I've seen similar um, situations in other organizations. I am also very much a member of the European Yoga Federation and have been quite active there. And I've seen how discussions about these things are really quite disturbing to the whole setup and should be as much as possible avoided. The fact, as I said, that some people can vote for the worthiness of a certain book, that should be enough. No need to compare one book to another and seek out to find which is the best book. It doesn't exist on any subject. All this literature, when it is well founded, is complementary. So I hope with this to have added a little subject to the story, which is important. Thank you.